This video is sponsored by Big Boy Gaming. Follow the link in the description below for all of your card gaming needs. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Edison Club. I'm your host, Mike, and today I'm bringing you this really spicy top 8 Twilight list that managed to top RBET New York last weekend. Before we get started, as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really just motivates me to keep going, getting better at the game, as well as content creation. Also, head on down to the video description and follow the links I have posted there to the other Edison format content creators. Odds are, if you like what I make, you'll enjoy what they make as well. You'll see our subscriber count is currently at 2632. Out of our goal of 3,000, so we are so close to getting to our 3,000 subscriber goal. So I would really appreciate it if you subscribed if you haven't already. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump into this Twilight deck. So this is top 8 Twilight Lightsworn by Jeff, and I was never a big believer in Twilight. Very recently, my faith has been restored. Kind of started with this snowball effect of James Ark kind of working on the deck and adding some things in that you haven't seen before, and Twilight has kind of been on a steady incline ever since then. So let's go over this list and see what Jeff played. So in the main, we have 1 Arcus, 1 Caius, 1 Trooper, 1 Celestia, 1 Chaos Sorcerer, 2 copies of DD Crow. Now, a lot of people have asked me specifically, what are my thoughts on main decking DD Crow in Twilight? And it's basically, it's very, very strong. It's very good. There's not really any matchups where Crow is just a completely dead card in your hand. Now, obviously, there's going to be matchups where Crow is better than others, but you think about it, even against like standard Blackwings, this can be hit on Blizzard targets. It can be hit to keep your opponent off of Dark Armed. This card can be good against stuff like Hero Beat, taking out Alias, taking out stuff for Miracle Fusion, Ocean targets. Even against a deck like Gladiator Beast, if they're on Prisma and Test Tiger, can hit Bestiari. Can also break the Equest Chariot loop. So it's a very good card in the main, and then obviously against like Vayu Turbo, Hero Frogs, or other frog variants, very, very strong there as well. So I'm a big fan. I also personally feel like Game 1 DD Crows are much better than Game 2 and 3 DD Crows because your opponent isn't playing around it in Game 1 most of the time. So big fan of 2 Crows in the main deck. 1 Dark Armed, 1 Aaron, 1 Garoth, 1 Gores, 2 copies of Honest, 1 Jane, 2 copies of JD, 1 Lumina, 3 Lila, 1 Necrogardna, 1 Plague Spreader, 3 Raikou, 1 Sangan, and 1 Wolf rounds off the monster card count. Going into the spells, we have 1 Allure, 1 Charge, 1 Heavy, 2 Monster Reincarnation, 3 Solar Recharge, 2 Upstarts. We're going to actually come back to this one. We're going to finish off the main first. 1 copy of Mirror Force, 1 Threatening Roar, and 1 Trap Dust Shoot rounds off the 40 card main deck. Now, Upstart Goblin, we have not really seen a lot of people play Upstart in Lightsworn, and you might ask yourself, why is that? Well, normally in Lightsworn, you want to be playing a lot of cards that you just want to mill. So Upstart obviously doesn't get any value from being sent from deck to the graveyard. And also too, in Lightsworn, most of the time you're going to see people playing triple copies of Wolf. So the worst thing that can happen is that you Upstart into Wolf, and you just don't want that to happen. So regular Lightsworn doesn't take advantage of playing Upstart, rightfully so. Now, that brings us to Twilight, and kind of in one sense, Theedisonclubfanmail as well, I think could take advantage of playing this card, at least if you're on the Theedisonclubfanmail list, like the original list with like Solar Purity and Light. Probably wouldn't play it if we're playing Wolf for reasons I've already discussed. But in Twilight, you have a lot of bomb cards that you want to see. You have stuff like Caius, Chaos Sorcerer, Dad, Judgment Dragon, even Honest can be bombs at times. You have stuff like Monster Reincarnation, Solar Recharge, Allure of Darkness. You have a lot of these cards that you really want to turbo into, that you want to see early. Now in this deck, you don't have as many cards that you don't want to draw, right? So it's mainly Necrogardna, Plague Spreader, and Wolf are just the cards that are kind of like a death sentence in air quotations to draw, even though you do have conversions for them like Lumina and Monster Reincarnation and Solar Recharge with Wolf. So you don't have that many cards in your deck that you don't mind just outright drawing. So it does add some consistency there in helping you see your power cards more frequently. And I have seen some people say that maybe this card kind of pushes you out of the OTK potential too much. And I do agree in once again going back to pure Lightsworn that you're kind of moving the goalpost further away by giving your opponent more life. But I don't necessarily always believe that Lightsworn is some OTK-centric deck that just aims to kill your opponent very quickly. Lightsworn is kind of a slow burn deck that usually aims to try to end your opponent in the mid game. The deck obviously can win very early if you get lucky on your mills and you have multiple recharges and charge and Lumina Garoth is going off, then yes. But I kind of feel like giving your opponent 1,000 is kind of an arbitrary number in this deck because Judgment Dragon is such a powerhouse that every single turn their board just gets nuked. So I don't really feel like the 1,000 gain is going to be that impactful towards making you lose. And you'll also notice that this list doesn't play Brain Control or Tragodia. That's two one-of cards that have been cut in favor of Upstart Goblin. So I feel like playing Upstart over those cards is just making your deck faster. Now it does lack a little bit of utility, a little bit of defense. You don't have Trag, you don't have Brain Control anymore. But obviously it was good enough to get to the top 8 of RBET New York, so it must be pretty good. And me, myself personally, I am going to be testing out the theory of Upstart. And one last thing we'll talk about with Upstart Goblin is you might think, why are there not 3 if you're going to play Upstart? I kind of feel like, in a sense, that Allure of Darkness is kind of like your third copy of Upstart in this deck. So you've got like your triple recharge, your 2 Upstart, and then your Allure, which is, once again, your pseudo Upstart. You could cut something like Mirror Force and try to make room for the third Upstart. But once again, that goes back to you're kind of really taking away from your defense in the deck. So I feel like 2 is probably fine. You could even argue like taking 1 out and replacing it with Tragodia and just having the 1 with the 39 card deck, because your deck does self-mill. So you do get to see your good cards in most games that you play anyway. So yeah, Upstart, comment down below and let me know how you feel about Upstart and Lightsworn variants. Is this the new tech? Is this the future for Lightsworn? Okay, going over the extra deck, we'll do that really quickly because these are pretty much meaningless. Fortress Dragon, Catastrophe, Armory Arm, Avenging Knight Parshath. Actually, I don't even know if he played this. This might just be a standard Twilight extra deck, but they don't really matter for the most part. They all play the same cards. Black Rose, Armor Master. Yes, this is definitely just a stock Twilight list. I apologize, Jeff. Brionac, Colossal Fighter, Dark End, Flamvel, Goyo, Mistworm, Stardust, Tempest Magician, Thought Ruler. Yeah, this is my side deck from the video with Frozen Soul. I usually don't even update these unless they have something really spicy in there. But let's go to what's important now. The side deck. So we have Barrier Statue of the Heavens. Now, if I haven't said this already, and I don't think that I have, Keegan from E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Does have the entire top 16 deck list over on his channel, E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! So make sure you go check those out if you want to see all of the lists that topped this event. He did point out, why would you play Barrier Statue over something like Fossil Dyna? And honestly, in a lot of ways, it's just because it is a light. It has some functionality with stuff like Chaos Sorcerer, and you can also still mill Wolf and summon JD. A lot of times when I have tried playing stuff like Fossil Dyna, there have been a few times I've actually gotten locked out under my own Fossil Dyna, or have game on the field, but can't do it because I have Fossil Dyna, and this kind of just takes care of it. It is weaker, obviously, or actually pretty much useless when you do play against a mirror match, against any kind of Theedisonclubfanmail or Lightsworn deck. It doesn't do anything, obviously, but into the general meta, I don't think that it's that bad to be playing Barrier Statue. You also get bonus points from being able to back this thing up with Honest to prevent them from attacking over it. I do kind of think this guy might be a little bit better than Jowgen. I kind of bounce back and forth between the two of them myself. Then we have Sirocco in the side deck. This would obviously be for like Blackwings and Vayu. And I have seen some people on the Lightsworn channel argue putting this in against Glads because it's a 2000 attack stat. That's still a dark for like your dark stuff. So take that for what it is. 2 copies of Consecrated Light. I have had some people ask me, how do you side with Twilight for Blackwings? And I'm actually still figuring that out, how to side deck with Twilight in general. I feel like I learn a little more every day, but you can kind of cut down on stuff like Dark Armed, maybe Crows, and like your Allures if you're swapping out that many darks. I do like to keep in the Sangan because it can find pieces that are very pivotal in the Blackwing matchup, like Honest and sometimes Card Trooper, and obviously Consecrated Light helps find that post side. 1 Cyber Dragon to assist in going second. Put the dark one in here because it fits the theme. And Kaiku, the Ghost Destroyer, obviously is a very good card. This card was shunned for a long time, people saying this card was too hard to actually get an attack through. It wasn't a very good card, and we've seen a lot of people play Kaiku lately, and I actually had a build of pure Lightsworn that took full advantage of triple copies of Shield Warrior, and I actually hung that one up for a while just because so many people have been playing Kaiku. It makes it very difficult. So very strong card. 1 copy of Thunder King. Spells, we have 1 Book of Moon, 1 My Body is a Shield, 1 MST. Rounds off the spells. Traps, we have Mask of Restrict. It's going to be for frogs. We only play 2 tribute summons in our deck, Celestia and Caius, so not really going to have any conflictions here with this. 2 copies of Decree, which is pretty standard for most Lightsworn decks. 1 Oppression and 1 Torrential Tribute. Big fan of Torrential in Lightsworn lists somewhere, either the main or the side, so obviously you see this one is in the side. So I'm a big fan of the list here. I personally would probably change a few things about the side deck. Not the biggest fan of like Sirocco in here. Not the biggest fan of Kaiku at the moment for Lightsworn specifically. I try not to side deck normal summons if I can, just because you already have so many normals. I have sided this card before and it can be good, but I definitely probably would want Lightning Vortex in here somewhere. Maybe you can make the concession of cutting Sirocco. But all in all, great list. Congratulations to Jeff for making top 8 with this and representing the Lightsworn community. Always love to see it. Always enjoy seeing Lightsworn do well, any kind of Lightsworn. So that's about all I have for you guys today. And if you stuck around this long, next week I'm actually going to be doing a video with Jeff where we kind of get his thoughts on the deck, why he played certain cards, why he didn't play certain cards. And we'll also be taking this deck over to the Dueling Book Ladder and seeing it in action a little bit. So make sure you check back next week. I think we're set to film that video on Tuesday. So make sure you check back for that. All right, that's about all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching. This is Mike from the Edison Club signing out until the next one. Take care, everyone.